Hi there, Susan with the Magical Forest Bookstore, and I just finished reading the third book in a trilogy by Travis Baldree. If you're not familiar with this, these books have been all over social media when I've seen things. I mean, watching Bridgerton, there was one of the actresses on there was saying how she read Legends and Lattes, and it's just, I've been seeing a lot of it on social media, and I brought it in the store and I read them and I want to talk about them. So this is more of a grown-up video. So the first one is Legends and Lattes. This is the paperback version. And the second one is Bookshops and Bone Dust. And then the third one is Brigands and Bread Knives. So the stories are, I mean, I say a trilogy because they include some of the same characters, but these books are all independent of each other and they tell completely different stories. It's not a continuation. The first book, the main character is an orc by the name of Viv, and she has, according to Travis Baldree, she's about 40 years old, and she has spent her adult life being a bounty hunter, a mercenary, an adventurer, and she wants to settle down and open a coffee shop. And nobody has ever heard of coffee before. So it's a really interesting take. She's in a town that she's guided to by a stone, or rune stone, I believe. And you know, it's all sorts of fantasy things happen, and it includes characters like gnomes and elves and a succubus and ratkins, which are very cute little characters. But you can see this is Viv, and that is the succubus Tandri. And so that's what Legends and Lattes is about them opening up this coffee shop and the adventures that take place during that. The second book in a series, this is Bookshops and Bone Dust. So we still have Viv, but we've got Fern, she's a ratkin, and this is Pot Roast. He is part owl and part pug, I'm saying. Kind of looks like that. And I forget what type of animal he is. But they're fantasy animals. Oh, that's bugging me. I can't remember what it is. But it's like a dog and an owl at the same time. So, but definitely a pet. And this is very early on in Viv's life, when she is just starting out, is young and powerful and prone to making mistakes. Who of us haven't made mistakes when we are, you know, young adults? So, but that is a whole different, and each title gives clues to what's in the story. So Legends and Latte, Viv is a legend and she's making lattes, and there's a bookshop and Bookshops and Bone Dust, and there is something about bone dust in the story. And then, so that's like a prequel of sorts, but again, a completely different story with different characters. And then we have Brigands and Bread Knives, which is not really about Viv, although she is in the beginning and the end of the story, but it's mostly about Fern, about the little ratkin who wants to do something a little bit different. We have an elf. This is Asterix, and this little thing is a goblin. Her name is Zill, and then the horse's name is Bucket. So it takes on a totally different story, and yes, Viv is in there, but it's not Viv's story, it is Fern's story. So the books are very readable. I mean, you get pulled into the story right away. And I'm the type of person where if I don't get pulled into a story right away, it's really hard for me to get into it unless I really force myself. So I like stories where I'm caught up right away, where there's something going on or some mystery or something that I have to figure out right away. And it's fantasy because it includes fantasy creatures, orcs and wraiths and necromancers and dwarves and humankind, and I I think they're called Tatentry, but they're like serpent-like creatures. So all these fantasy creatures that talk and move and act like humans would move. But then you have the real world examples of like romance and liking someone and flirting with someone, or, you know, talking swords, or being uncomfortable riding in a carriage, you know, or fighting off an attack, or opening a coffee shop, or running a bookshop. So they're really interesting, funny stories because they feel normal to us. We can kind of understand, okay, well, this is what it's like being in a coffee shop. This is what it's like being in a bookshop. This is what it's like traveling, you know, on a long journey. So they do have a cozy feeling. I like that even though there is romance in it, there's nothing really explicit. I mean, there's a place for that, but I like that it's not going there. So there is some sweetness and there's some attraction, but it's not like page after page after a physical intimacy. So that's kind of nice. But these books are bestsellers. The first one came out in 2022. And then this one came out in 2024, I believe, 2023. And then Brigands and Bread Knives, I'm gonna say 2025. Yeah, 2025. So if you go on to travisbaldree.com, which is the author's website, you can read an excerpt of a different story that he's writing. And I don't know if that's gonna end up being a new book or something, or a collection of stories, but you can read an excerpt, so that's kind of cool. And you know, it's great to support authors and writers who create great work. And you can also learn about kind of the process of how he writes. So if you're an aspiring writer, he has a whole bit on there about sort of how he went through this process. He also narrates audiobooks, and so he's got information about that. He's really a very interesting person. He does a lot of things. So that was my video for today. Check out Legends and Lattes. But if you can't find that, you can do any of the books in the series, and they all stand alone very, very well. And they all are wonderful books. Couldn't wait to get to the next page. They were a lot of fun. So I hope y'all have a wonderful day. Enjoy the warm weather if you're in the Chicago area. And we will see you next time. Bye.